Coming to the bean scopes, Spring has 5 different kinds of scopes defined. They are singleton, prototype, request, session and global session. Regarding the last 3 scopes like request, session and global session are connected with the web-based applications. So when we define a bean as a related to a request scope, the bean lifecycle will be managed until the response is being sent. So when the request lands to the server and until the response is being sent away, the life of the bean be managed by the Spring container. And coming to the session scope, the bean will be managed until the user session is on. And the last one is the global session, which is connected to the portal context. We will discuss about the last 3 scopes in the Spring MVC tutorials. Coming to the singleton scope, this is the default scope that is defined in the Spring framework. So once when you don't define anything like scope, then automatically Spring considers it to be a singleton scope. So with this, what it means is that even though you call call for an instance of a bean using Spring framework for 10 times or 100 times, all the times only one single instance, the same instance will be returned for you. So you can see in this that I'm trying to call for 6 times using the context.getBean statement. Only one single statement, which is one single instance which is already created, will be returned to the application. Whereas when you define the scope of the bean as a prototype, for n number of requests using getBean method, you get n number of instances to the application. That means with every call of the getBean, you get a new instance of the bean. Coming to the concept of method injection, this is a very good concept offered by the Spring framework, where let us say we have a class which is actually we are using based on a license which we don't have any rights to replace or override its methods or something like that, and we are not satisfied with one of its methods implementation. So we would like to replace its methods implementation with a new kind of code. So Spring offers a strategy to implement your own kind of method, and whenever that particular instance is being called, Spring gives your own method implementation rather than the method that is already implemented. Let us talk about this with an example. I have a class known as mobile store, you can see that, and I have a method known as buy mobile. You can see I have a normal statement. I'm returning string bought a mobile phone, but I want it to return an iPhone. So what I've done is that I have implemented a new class which implements a method replacer, and I have implemented a re-implement method which returns bought an iPhone statement. In the Spring configuration, I have declared the mobile store class, and I mentioned that replace the method buy mobile with the replacer implementation of buy mobile the mobile store replacer. So on the runtime, whenever you get a bean of mobile store through Spring framework and call the buy mobile, Spring understands that it needs to replace the buy mobile method with the new implementation what you have mentioned, and this returns a string known as bought an iPhone. In the same way, we have another concept in the method injection known as lookup method injection. The earlier method injection was about the implementation of the method, but this one is more about the type of bean being returned to the application. If you look at this in particular, You can see I have an abstract class here known as bookstore, which has got an abstract method order book. I have defined an interface book. I have two books, one is a story book and the other one is a programming book which implements book interface. Now when I call the order book, my bookstore is an abstract one, but when I call order book method through an implementation, I want programming book to be written rather than a story book. That means, let us say, even though a bookstore is a concrete class and your order book returns a story book, I have the power of returning a programming book using the Spring framework. We'll see this very clearly with an example. So let us dive into an example. So first I will talk about the bean scope here. I have defined the student class and I have a constructor in which a count will keep getting incremented. This is a static value. So the n number of instances that are getting created will always increment the count, and I have a method which will return the count value here. So I have defined a bean scope demo in which I have created the context, application context instance, and in the for loop which I am iterating for 10 times, I am getting a student bean here and I am trying to print the count. So as per the logic, if there are 10 instances that are getting created, this constructor will run for 10 times and the count will become 10. And now if you see the scope, I have not defined any scope in the XML, so its a default one is the singleton scope. And if you run this program, you can see that all the times I get the count as only 1. You can see that all the numbers are 1, so that means only one instance is being returned all the times for me. Whereas if you go ahead to define the scope as prototype, you can see that the count will be printed as 1 to 10. That means for every call through the Spring framework, Spring understands that a new instance has to be returned, and it returns a new instance for every call of the get bean. This is the importance of singleton and prototype. So you need to be very careful and should have a good understanding of whether your application needs the same bean all the times or multiple new instances have to be created. The next concept we're going to talk about is the method injection. I have for the method injection, I'm going to take the same example, a mobile store. I have created a mobile store where I have got the buy mobile, which returns an bought a mobile phone string, and now I have created a mobile store replacer which has got an re-implement method. This should implement the method replacer interface. Please remember that if you have any method arguments, you can pass them through the object args and you can utilize them in the method body. And here I am returning the bought an iPhone string. Now if I run the method injection demo, I can replace method demo. You can see that I'm just getting the application context instance here, and I'm getting the mobile store instance. As per the mobile store, when you call the buy mobile, it has to return an bought a mobile phone string. But in the XML, what I have done is that I have mentioned that replace this buy mobile phone method with the implementation of mobile store replacer. I've configured mobile store replacer here. So when I try to run this code, it should return me an iPhone. So it is printing bought an iPhone. So this is the